Well, look what just showed up. My 2020 F150 has returned, and the motor is knocking. The oil pan is leaking, or it's ticking, and all I can think of is it's a gasketed pan. Why would it be leaking? Turns out the gasketed pan is leaking. So all I could think about was maybe the pan warped. So I went ahead of time, and I'm thinking that maybe this O-ring is not seated inside the pan all the way, or in the oil pump, and it's sucking air, and maybe that's why it's causing the intermittent low oil pressure. I don't know. And then it's leaking all along this side right here of the pan. So I said, you know what? I'm not even messing around with this. Just give me a new pan with a new gasket and everything, and I'll go in fresh, a new O-ring, a new hardware, and then we can try to see if seating that O-ring inside that pump better takes away some of that maybe possible aeration that's causing the ticking, because it's intermittently dropping oil pressure. Well, let's go out here and check this truck out, and I'll let you guys hear what it sounds like, and you can see the oil gauge as I'm pulling it in. It's a police F150 5-liter V8. See, it went up, went back down, and went back up. There it goes. Drop back out again. Oil pressure light's on. And now it's starting to tick. We got to get it inside, get the oil pan down, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get that done today. You can see it's full of oil. There's plenty of oil in there, just for some reason it's you're gonna have to pull the pan down and check the pickup tube and all that. Instead of doing the coolant right this second, I went ahead and dropped the sway bar. It's 2 15s on each side, and pull those nuts down, let the sway bar hang. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start loosening up the stuff for the front end. I'm gonna pull the bolts out of the front end. There's one here, there's one back here that's hidden, and there's one up front. I have a previous video where I go more in depth, but it's right there. And then there's a little collar right there that slides up in a slot that goes into. I'm going to drop this front diff down and let it sit on the control arm. Well, there's the problem. This thing was barely even touching the pump, so I wasn't able to pick up oil. They got shoved down. Yeah, I don't know. It needs to go in the pump first. But luckily they caught it in time instead of using it. But it lasted a month like that before this O-ring ended up down here. Halfway down, this barely inside the pump at all. Well, there's gonna be the fix for it. Clean everything and get it all back together. That's that.
That obviously explains why I was getting that intermittent low oil pressure thing.
So I think what I'm going to do this time, because this could have been my fault, I don't know. There's a stop on the pickup tube where you can actually set the O-ring down on top of it and it stops, and you feed it back in there. I have no idea. I asked my coworker how he does it. He said either or, you just got to be careful. But he said in a situation like that where you're working in a real tight spot, maybe try putting that pickup tube O-ring in the pump first and then feeding the oil pan. So when you're putting the oil pan in there, you're feeding the tube into the seal instead of the seal being on the pan already, and then risking the chance of catching the edge and pushing it down. I don't know, but we got to fix it, and that's what we're doing. So this is a two-part video. This is the diagnosis. The next part 2, will be the actual fix with everything back together.